everybody, to the virtual programming of the Lawrence Family JCC, Jacobs Family Campus. Thank you for being here with us this evening. Tonight's event is a presentation of the San Diego International Jewish Film Festival. My name is Ryan Isaac. I am the Director of Cultural Arts at the San Diego Center for Jewish Culture. And we've been at this now, it's towards the end of May. This is wrapping up our third month of virtual programming. And as long as everyone's staying inside, avoiding crowds, at least for the most part, the LFJCC will continue to bring the culture to you in the comfort of your own homes through this format. So thank you for being with us so far, and we look forward to staying with you throughout these times. You can find out about all of our virtual offerings at lfjcc.org/about/virtual. I would like to take a moment to thank our underwriters, the underwriters of both the 2019-2020 film season and the Arts and Ideas season. It is through their generosity that we are able to continue to program even during the temporary closure of our facility. Thank you. And welcome to Zoom. It's a great crowd. I think by now, a lot of you are used to Zoom. It's nice to see so many faces, so many people. Keep in mind the one bit of Zoom protocol. We can see you too. So don't do anything that you wouldn't want seen by everybody and later put up on YouTube. That said, we have an event I want to tell you all about next Tuesday, June 2nd at 6 p.m. We are going to have a conversation with Amy Emberlin. Amy is the managing partner of Zingerman's Bakehouse in Michigan. She's the author of a book of the same name, Zingerman's Bakehouse, which was published in 2017. And she was on book tour at our JCC in support of that book. She's going to be talking about baking with freshly milled grains. Sounds a bit esoteric, I know, but now that we are all baking experts, thanks to coronavirus, she's going to be able to give us all some insights, answer some questions, and help us all elevate our baking games in the kitchen. Everybody's sourdough starters and whatever else we have going on. She's going to be joining us to share her insights and wisdom and take some questions. That, again, is next Tuesday at 6 p.m. Tonight, it is my great pleasure to welcome Lisa Hurwitz. Lisa is the filmmaker of the Automat. Obviously, we all know why we're here, and it's the documentary that has brought us together tonight. Lisa is also a former employee of a JCC up in Seattle. She's part of the Arts and Ideas department. So it's nice to have family in the house as well, we can say. Her film, The Automat, is soon to be released. It's nearing release. And Abby, should we start it off with a clip? We're going to share the screen and get a little taste of the documentary.
Remember to pause the record, Isaac.
Let's get right into it. Mel Brooks. You've got Mel Brooks to serve as really your narrator, as your Greek chorus for this documentary. How'd you get Mel? Okay,
but I also kind of have this like ADD thing going on, and I'm seeing all my friends, and I'm only gonna address the people whose videos I can see, because some people are only on pictures. But I want to give a shout out to the Silverman family. Hi, Mr. Cooperman, middle school teacher, and his family there. We've got Bonnie. We've got Joshua Sawicki, and who else? We've got, it's just, there's too many people here. I'm so excited to see everybody here. There was somebody that I lost. Brett is here, and we have an expert on diners, Richard Gutman, who he could be interviewed about the diner in America. Anyways, okay, so you asked about Mel Brooks. The answer to that question is, so I used to run the Olympia Film Festival. I was the director, and one year we loved doing retrospectives. We were projecting 35 millimeter until the last, minute. And I used to be a 35 millimeter projectionist, and we were doing this screening of Jaws 3D with two 35 millimeter projectors. And we brought the writer of Jaws, Carl Gottlieb, and he was terrific. And then he saw my Kickstarter campaign on Facebook, and he sent me a Facebook message saying, Lisa, I used to go to the Automat all the time. I love the Automat. I'm having dinner with Mel Brooks tonight. Do you mind if I mention your film to him? And I said, of course. And so then Mel, it turned out he loved the Automat too. And just a few days later, you know, I was coordinating with his assistant on the phone for me to film him. And then he recruited Carl Reiner. And then once you have Mel Brooks and Carl Reiner on board, then it's a lot easier to get other people like Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Colin Powell. So once we had Mel, it became a lot easier to attract celebrities to be a part of it.
What was that
be
like?
Nice to people, because you never know how somebody can play into your life later. Because I would never have guessed that the writer of Jaws was going to end up doing such a solid for me. I mean, can you imagine your most precious contact that you have to introduce somebody to your most precious contact? He did that for me, so I'm forever grateful.
Where do you think the film would be if that hadn't happened, if you hadn't just had that serendipitous encounter?
Oh gosh, the film would have been done years ago. It really, it started off as like a small college project that was supposed to be just a few minutes. I was taking this media production class, but when I graduated, I just kept working on it, and it just kept getting bigger and bigger. The film wouldn't be at the level that I think it's at, which isn't to say that I think it's, you know, the most amazing film ever, but it's a film I strongly feel it does a really excellent job of preserving this piece of history. We brought together all of the different old movies that the Automat was in. We brought together all of the archival film, all of the archival photograph, the Horn family, the Hardart family, some of the employees, and we squeezed as much. It gets kind of easy to cut things out after you've been working on it for so many years, because you're just like, I want to get this done already. But we tried to pick the stuff that made the most sense to tell the story in the most entertaining, heartwarming way possible. And so I think it's great we got Mel. And then I would have had to hire a narrator if we didn't have Mel, and he did it for free. And I didn't even have to ask him. He just, it's incredible when he talks, he remembers the most specific things from his childhood, and he can say it in the most artistic way possible. And he's a genius.
There's the phone call that is played in the beginning of the film, where you receive a call from Mel. Was that the first phone call you had with him?
No, I've recorded a lot of our phone calls, and he knew I was recording them. So that was not our first phone conversation. But the phone conversations are funny, and only 15 or 20 seconds of one of the phone conversations made it into the film. But yeah, you just couldn't get everything in there, you know? And at the end of the day, the film is not about me. I'm in the film a little bit, but mostly just for comedy. We were trying so hard to make it a historical documentary that would attract a wider audience than a historical documentary might normally. And we sort of used me to try to make it funnier. And I wasn't originally in the film, but it was just something that we tried it out, and then it sort of stuck. And people are mixed on it, actually. We've done works in progress screenings where people weren't into it. So, but those were the people who came to those screenings were people who were like Automat diehards. and I think they might have been more interested in even more history and even more facts and information. But I wanted to try to make this a film that would, and when I mean our whole team, especially our editors, they really wanted to make this a film that would be interesting to a wide range of people of all ages.
How many other voices are there weighing in on what the finished product will look like? You keep saying we. I'm just curious, who's in your ear?
So my two editors, Michael Levine and Russell Green, they're very much in my ear. And there's some people who are in my ear who don't necessarily, you've all got those people who you like showing things to them, but at the end of the day, I know who's, you have to stay true to my vision, and to the editors are really like the writers of the film, because with the documentary, you film a bunch of stuff, you get a bunch of pictures and archival film, and you've got to figure out, okay, where's the story in this? And the story really comes together in the editing room. So the editors are also notoriously like the only well-paid position in an independent documentary. So editors make more money than independent directors do. Editors are very valuable. So I feel, let's see, you were asking who else is in. None of the characters really have had any influence. One of the reasons that I decided not to, try to sell the film was that I wanted to be able to make decisions and stay true to my ideas and do things the way that I wanted to do them. But I think it would be, if I ever make another film, it would have to be one that is more properly funded and more, you can only spend 10 years making a film so many times.
Good point. When I think I either read this or heard this in an interview you gave, you didn't have to script anything for Mel, and he just sits down and goes. At least that's the impression I get from the film. For you, sitting in the chair across from him when he began to narrate, did you think to yourself, this is incredible, I just sit back and make sure that the cameras are rolling and Mel Brooks is gonna just kind of lay out a foundation for this entire film?
I want to amend one thing that I just said, which is about people in my ear. We did quite a few works in progress feedback screenings, and at those screenings, we collected audience feedback, and we made some big changes based on audience feedback. Like one of the most important pieces of feedback, because I want everyone who's in the film to look good, and people were just complaining about this one character that he was so unlikable. And we were able to, with everybody's feedback, we were able to sort of make a lot of changes to help with that particular character. But I'd say the audience members also shaped the film a lot too. And Mel, I sat down and everything all this gold just was pouring out of his mouth, and it was incredible. And he became the de facto narrator, and it's just unbelievable that somebody could just on the spot just start doing that stuff. He sort of warmed up with there's this story that he told at the very beginning of the interview that I later realized was a warm-up technique of his, because I saw him do it it's a story he's told quite a few other times about a time he peed out the window. At first I was kind of how is this story about peeing related to the Automat? But so he had to get in character first.
That's great. I have to do some Google searching later.
You could find it on YouTube for sure. He's done it a bunch.
Why don't we take a look at another clip we can show it and then discuss it afterwards. And I think it'll give everybody some good insight into the Automat. And
also, I love how Marilyn Tedesco is in front of
some of the more hardcore Automat research and info that the Automat junkies probably want more of. Going down that rabbit hole of Automat footage, archival footage, the machinery. How did that process work for you? How long did that take? What kind of travel did you have to do to find it?
Well, the research was like the best. Well, aside, I actually really love going to, the film isn't out yet, so I haven't been going to like proper screenings yet, but like the works in progress screenings, those are probably my favorite things so far because I love meeting everybody. But, and I went one works in progress screening, they had a party too. So there was like a party and that was really great. But the research is my next favorite part. It's amazing to locate stuff that when you're holding something that's really old and that it's like nobody's touched it in so long, and who knows when somebody will touch it again. It's just a really special feeling, and to go on this like hunt to try to track all of it down and then bring it together. It's a really amazing feeling. And logistically, I think it's gotten easier because I started researching the film 9 years ago. I started filming it 7 years ago. And at the beginning, things weren't as digitized. You couldn't go to an archives website and type into the catalog exactly what you were looking for and then find it immediately. And it's becoming easier and easier to do that. And also archives, museums, they're getting better about like, even if you can't see something immediately on their website, there's a description, an email address, you can contact them. When Alec, who wrote the PhD dissertation about the Automat, when he was doing his research, he had to, write a letter in the mail. This was, like around 2000. He had to write a letter in the mail to the archive with a check, and then they would send him back in the mail photocopies of what it was he was looking for. You don't have to do that anymore. So, but right now I'm dealing with the licensing of all of the archival, which is, as much as I love all this archival, I hate doing all of this negotiation of fees and making decisions about stuff that I have to pull out and swap in something else because maybe something's too expensive or they don't want to, give the rights to it. So archival is, there's a lot of individual images and film clips in this film, which is amazing, but at the same time, it's really complicated getting the permissions to be able to use all of it in the documentary. But I love going to archives and doing research.
How many of these challenges are unique to a first-time filmmaker?
Even though I'm technically a first-time feature filmmaker, since I've been working on this film for so long, I kind of feel like I'm pretty experienced. And it's like I'm a second time. It's my second feature. But, you and I were talking earlier about one challenge in particular regarding, funding, which is that when it's your first film, I got rejected from almost all of the grants that I applied for, even though we all here probably think that this is a worthy story. But it's just so many people are making documentaries right now, and there's so much competition. And when you don't have, some films under your belt, it's really hard to, to stand out. And it also took a long time. The film to me really only started feeling like a finished film pretty recently. So if you can imagine early on in the process when I was applying for grants, what the film looked like then. And that's normal though. But when you've made a few films already and you're showing the beginnings of a film, it's easier to convince people to, you know, trust you and fund you.
What has the level of interest been with your celebrity talking heads as this process has gone on?
Quick question. If anyone wants to ask a question, how do they submit their question?
We have a chat function. There are some people who have been submitting some questions already. They come to Abby and me, and then we can filter them out and ask you when we get to that point.
Thank you.
There was a question about the archival footage that was worked into.
Oh, nice.
To that last question.
Cool.
So thank you, Joshua Sawicki.
Can you remind me? Oh, you were asking about
what's the level of interest and curiosity been?
Well, let me tell you, the Jewish film festivals, they love Jewish celebrities, because I'd say that is the most interest. Those are the most interested people in this film, are the Jewish film festivals. And at that, I mean, I'm really proud of the film, and it's a great film, but at the end of the day, there's a lot of documentary films with celebrities in them, and it's probably good. I'm naturally pretty modest when it comes to like projecting like the future, and I'm also feeling kind of nervous about the future, because I was not expecting this film to become finished during a pandemic, and this was not part of my vision, you know, to release a film when theaters are closed, because, you know, that's part of my dream, is for this film to have a limited theatrical release and to play at film festivals. And I want everyone to stay safe. And I also, at the same time, I don't want to wait, you know, a year and a half to put the film out. So I don't know exactly what I'm gonna do, but I think I might have to compromise on some of my original ideas. But I think the Jewish film festivals who love the film so much, I think that they'll, even if the film has already showed online or whatever, I think everybody's making exceptions nowadays. I want to believe that even if the film comes out digitally, that the film festivals, the independent theaters, that they'll still want to do some in-person stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, you're not the only one with that issue right now either. We've had a lot of conversations over the last couple of months with filmmakers, first time and established, who are missing out on festivals and not sure what to do. We had one filmmaker who had his debut film. It was completed and it was scheduled to come out in a few months, and he just went straight to streaming and got it out there. But different options, different ways to go. You mentioned Alec the historian. Why don't we share that clip? And Lisa, you can set it up a bit for us too, since we mentioned him already. A historian on the Automat. How did you cross paths, and what did you learn about him?
So when I was at the beginning stages, I was in my college library. I was looking at microfiche. I was looking through old books, and then the research librarian, she said, oh, by the way, there's this PhD dissertation somebody wrote. If you want, we can request it through interlibrary loan or whatever. So eventually his dissertation arrived at my school, and it was it's the most historically detailed, complete account of Horn and Hardart. And so I gravitated towards him as somebody I could go to for support. And ultimately he became a producer on the film with me. And so he's just been an amazing, and for example, he's like one of those people who's like in my ear, but like he doesn't tell me what the kinds of opinions he gives me is more like, oh yeah, that's historically correct, or it's so great, I'm so excited, or can you whiten up my teeth in post-production? But yeah.
All right, let's show that clip. I will pause the recording.
Thank you.
Lisa, I like that part so much because, and there've been a couple articles written recently. I know there's a very nice article about the film in Forbes. Given the pandemic, given the way that the country is changing now, what might we learn? What might restaurateurs do following some aspects of the Automat to allow people to congregate, to get food, but also have some higher level of sanitary practices? Has that come up much for you? Just the timing of the film's production and now and where we are.
Well, in terms of the important lessons from Horn and Hardart, and I sort of separate Horn and Hardart from like all other automatic restaurants, because Horn and Hardart, it was its own world, and it wasn't just about the food. It wasn't just about the technology. It was about the whole experience and the whole the set of values that came with the restaurant. But for example, there's a automatic restaurant that is opening right now in New York City that people, every time a automatic restaurant opens, they liken it to Horn and Hardart, which for me, it's hard for me to see that, because when I think of Horn and Hardart, I think of a place that was giant and gorgeous and serving really delicious, high quality food, where people sat at communal tables and they weren't in a rush, and they had a proper, lunch hour, and you could afford to go eat out all the time. I think there's it relates to the pandemic in other ways, more about, uniting together and helping each other out and taking care of one another. And I mean, one thing I struggle with is that this is a film that really appeals to people across, it's very bipartisan. And I love that about this film, that there's something that we can all agree on. People love Horn and Hardart. At the same time, though, when you see big corporations being bailed out right now, I just think that this is a different world than the world that the Automat operated in. And this was an example of one of the morals of this film is about how corporations can really, take care of people and offer something that's in the public's interest. Unfortunately, they weren't able to. I wish that they were able to survive today, because I think that, everything's coming back. And I think that the communal, although now with the communal tables were like so making a comeback, and now we've got the pandemic. But I hope that things will go back to normal, and we'll start, we'll take the barriers down in between all of us. I think that's the track that we were on.
Yeah, I hope so. We got a question recently from Ellen Hammond, and she wanted to know if you could describe the story arc of the film. And that question just reminded me early on what Mel said to you, is he talked about the nickels and the little window.
Yeah. So the story arc really has to do, okay, when Ellen says story arc, do you think she means like, what's that like point in the film where everything kind of changes? Like, what's the dramatic, do you think that's what she means? Or is she asking for like a description of the plot?
Let's find out. Ellen, I just unmuted you. Can you?
Oh, great.
Oh, there you go. Can you?
Hello. Hi, Lisa.
Hi, Ellen.
How are you?
Great. How are you? Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. I'm just wondering if it's a big topic. So I'm wondering what it is you focused on most. Did you focus most on the history? Did you kind of take a big view and focus on, experiences there? Is it all of the above? What's kind of the whole story arc of what you go into in the film? There just seems to be so much there. What did you focus on is really where I'm going.
Thank you for that. Great question. So something that I used to focus on a lot, that after the feedback screenings, we decided to focus on less, was the demise, because for me, it was really fascinating to watch it. I mean, it's painful, especially for the people who loved it so much, to watch it, die. But for me, it was really interesting. And also, as time went on, there was more footage. As you can imagine, in the 70s and the 80s, there's camera crews out there making segments for, 5 o'clock news. So there was more archival, and also that archival is a little bit more palatable to watch. News footage is more palatable than looking at pictures from the late 1800s. But the feedback we were getting was that, people wanted to know more about the good old days. And so we shortened the demise a lot in the edit. But the film really focuses on the behind the scenes, the stuff that, people already kind of know the general story of Horn and Hardart. It's been written about a lot. And also there's already a coffee table book about it. And so we wanted to focus on things that weren't already out there. So we tried to tell you the things people already knew. There were certain things we had to cover: how Joe Horn met Frank Hardart, how there was this absence at the time of a place where women would be able to go out to eat comfortably, about how the times were changing in America. Women were starting to join the workforce. People were moving to big cities, and people needed to go somewhere. They couldn't go home for their lunch hour. They needed a place to go eat. And at the time, I'm giving you a summary, but I'm gonna tell you what the focuses were in my summary. So at the time, people were really concerned about sanitation, and that's where the cafeteria came in. They were white, they were spotless, and there were thousands of them in major cities like New York and Philadelphia. And as time went on, as the cafeterias were starting to close, Horn and Hardart prevailed, and they were doing incredible business even during the Great Depression. And they were, at the same time, they were innovating. You saw a little bit of that in their commissary footage. If I could, I would put all of the amazing real archival footage from the commissary, from their offices. I would, because it was absolutely amazing to see. But they were finding a way to, one of the amazing things that they really pioneered was producing food in bulk. They were making food to feed the entire city all in one place. It all tasted the same. And then they were sending it out to their different locations. And then as time went on, and they were so big, they were a tourist destination. You would go to the Statue of Liberty, to Horn and Hardart. It was a huge source of pride in Philadelphia, where they started. And they were in so many motion pictures. They kept growing. But then eventually, after the war, Americans started to change. And that was something that we sort of it was an important sidetrack to make, to sort of show America through the lens of Horn and Hardart, to show what was going on in the greater community. And so we do show, people's taste changing. They were more interested in they had more money to spend. They didn't want to go out to eat as much. And so we show what started to happen to Philadelphia, to New York City, how people were leaving the city, how there started to become more problems, more crime in the cities. And then we share the stories along the way of some of the characters in the film. We get to hear their stories and how, we sidetrack again from the story of Horn Hardart to the story of, the engineer, the vice president of engineering of the company, who's his father worked for the company for his whole life. He worked for the company his whole life. Let's see, what else do we really focus on? One of the amazing things one of the biggest surprises was when I learned that Howard Schultz, who was one of the founders of Starbucks, that his experience of eating out at Horn Hardart as a child was one of his inspirations for Starbucks. And so I love that people ask me all the time, well, what, should we bring back Horn Hardart? And for me, the answer is kind of like, no, we don't need to bring back the Automat, but I really see the continuum, and I really see that it's still with us, and if it influenced, and I happen to actually like the concept of Starbucks a lot, because one of my favorite things about the Automat was that it was a place where you could hang out and you wouldn't get kicked out, and you didn't have to spend much money. You could just, you didn't even have to buy anything if you didn't want to. And it was a comfortable place where you could go. And it was the second place. And it was a place that brought people together and gave people dignity. And Starbucks coffee is not my favorite coffee, but I love that Starbucks is a reliable place that you can go to when you need some place to go. And we all have run into that situation where, you just need somewhere to go. So, but you'll have to be the judge for yourself about what the important topics are when you see the film for yourself, hopefully in a theater.
Lisa,
I hope we can see the film in a theater.
You've sparked a lot of excitement over the last couple of minutes. The chats have been coming in, the comments have been coming in, talking about the dolphin head spout and how it scared a couple people when they were younger. The coffee becomes a major theme in a part of the film, just the love affair with the patrons and the coffee, so much so that Mel Brooks writes a song about the coffee.
Right.
That he sings.
So Mel Brooks wrote a song for the movie about the coffee at Horn Hardart, which is amazing. Mel asked me, what can I do to help you? And I said, I'd love it if you'd write a song. And at the time I asked if he would perform a song, because I didn't think that he actually would write a song for me. But then he said, okay, you get the song written and give it to me and I'll sing it. But then he just wrote it himself. But actually, one of those things that like makes me feel all like warm inside and happy about seeing the Automat kind of carry on to today is these dolphin spigots. I didn't know at first, but I was living, well, I'm trying to remember. I was either in Italy or I was about to go to Italy, and I somehow realized that the dolphin spigots were inspired by a fountain in Italy. And then I learned that there were actually several of these dolphin fountains in Italy that looked very similar, and that was actually where the inspiration came from for the Horn Hardart dolphin spouts, and they're still there today. So like to be able to like to Italy, and there you go. And to just be standing next to, you know, this sculpture that's been there for, you know, a few hundred years, that was the inspiration, and it's still there today. It's just, it's crazy, especially when you're like, I'm so invested. You know, it's like, this is Automat's my life. So for better or for worse, one of these days I'm gonna have a life beyond the Automat, which is exciting too. But not until after all of those screening parties.
Let's talk about those. I've gotten a lot of questions leading up to today and during this event. Everybody wants to know, when will the film be widely available, and what can we share?
I'm so not politically correct that I'm going to tell you that I shared this event on my Instagram account, and one of my friends, who I don't think is here, I think this friend unfriended me on Instagram, and they wrote a comment saying, stop teasing us with this movie and just put it out already. And if it were that simple, I would have already done it. But first of all, I really wanted to make sure that the film was like as good as it could possibly be, which took a long time on a low budget and being a second time feature filmmaker. And now honestly, I'm a bit frazzled by this pandemic situation, because I don't, you know, this was not my vision for how to release a film for people who are stuck at home. I know that a lot of people are saying this is it's true. I've heard that people are buying films right now. Soon there's going to be a shortage of films. People are going to be really needing films because everybody's at home watching films. It's just, so you've got a captive audience. It's just not the way I wanted people to see the film. So I don't know. I promise we'll put it out, and I'm not gonna make you all wait a year and a half to do so. It's sort of just a matter of it. I don't know. I've got to figure it out, but it's high priority for me. It's high priority.
Well, I think you've answered this question previously. I'm sure you have the answer prepared. But people also want to know, what sparked your interest in Horn Hardart initially, and enough to make a film? Because I know you were never there, and I think you told me your parents, no one in your family ever went there either.
Right. So in college, I ate a lot in the school cafeteria, and growing up, I was at Jewish day school. We didn't have cafeterias. We had a kosher food truck, and we had a kosher food truck. I don't even know how we never got sick of the kosher Mexican food, but that's what we had for middle school and high school. But I was just so into eating in the cafeteria, and I made a lot of friends by eating in the cafeteria, and I never had to eat alone. That was something, because growing up, my parents both worked a lot. But in the cafeteria, there was always someone I could eat with. I was meeting new people. The food, you know, it rotated. It was just amazing. So that's when I got into researching cafeteria history, and then all of the history, it just led me to believe, of all the cafeterias that I was learning about, Horn Hardart was the most interesting one. And then once I started meeting everybody involved, the Horn family, the Hardart family, visiting some archives just for fun at this point, I realized that, wow, there's a pretty interesting story here that's pretty well preserved. People are still alive to tell it. Unfortunately, I've been working on the film for so long that not everybody's still alive, and that's something that bothers me too, because I want people to see the film and be able to enjoy it, and they have to be alive in order to enjoy it. And I'm sad to think that probably a lot of people just died in the last few months who would have enjoyed, seeing this film. So I do want to get it out there.
Let's share our final clip that we have prepared for the evening. Lisa, also follow-up questions. What high school and college did you go to where you had these mythical cafeterias?
So, can you hear that? Can you hear? Anyway, my little brother's yelling at my mom.
It's Zoom during a pandemic, Lisa. It's all right.
I told them to be quiet. I asked them. I went to Milken Community Schools in Los Angeles. And then for college, I went to the Evergreen State College in Olympia, Washington. And our cafeteria was called the Greenery. So very fond memories of that place.
I could usually find a table upstairs where I could read a book or do homework while eating lunch.
The interview got shortened, and I wasn't allowed to have my photographer come in to take stills. My mom wasn't allowed to come in, but it was just, I mean, it's really gratifying when there's something that you believe in, that you or it felt for me when there's you know, this project of mine that I'm working really hard on, and to have people who are amazing people agree to be a part of it, and even to because they feel it's important too. So it's very reaffirming, and the validation. I'm not normally somebody who like needs a lot of validation, but like with this massive kind of overwhelming film, the Facebook community that we've created for the film is very, they give a lot of affirmation, and then you know, the characters that are in the film, their support helps, you know. The film's going to go a lot further because it has their participation and their validation. And to have, there's these statements in the documentary, you know, they say such positive things about the importance of the film, about the importance of Horn Hardart, about how they love Horn Hardart. And so, you know, it just doesn't get better than that when you have people's heroes telling you that, you know, you're doing a good job. So I don't know. I feel like I went off. It's like I hear the part of your question that like resonates with my soul, and then the rest of it, which I didn't answer.
Well, how much time did you get with Ruth Bader Ginsburg and Powell?
Her interview was the shortest one, but you have to keep in mind that the context, which was it was that awful week. Well, it wasn't so awful because I think anyways, I think it was a 4-minute interview or a 5. We used almost everything that she said. And I wish, in hindsight, I wish I had maybe asked her, you know, some different things, but that was the quickest interview. There was nothing even remotely close. You know, we spent a couple of hours getting everything set up and getting everything perfect. And then she walked in with her posse of women in suits. And then she sat down and we did it. And then I gave her a book that my friend wrote about Obamacare. And then she left.
You have more time with the others?
I did. And, you know, I got plenty of time with Mel on the phone too, because he calls and checks in, which is very, I feel very lucky. But the thing is, it's such a likable topic. It like almost sells itself. And it's not so much about me. It's just that, you know, people love Horn Hardart. And so they want to, you know, by the end of their interviews, usually if the interview goes well, by the end of your interview, you feel warm and fuzzy inside, and you feel, you know, you're feeling pretty pumped and reminiscing, pretty nostalgic for, you know, the old times. So, yeah, I got a lot of time. Mel's interview was like an hour, but then you know, the conversation with him continues, and then Carl Reiner's interview was pretty short, but that's because Carl and Mel were supposed to be interviewed together, but Mel is always notoriously late. And so he was like a couple of hours late for I can't remember how, he was very late to be interviewed. It turned out he was having lunch, a late lunch, but Carl was getting kind of antsy. And so his interview was short and separate, but it was for the best. It worked out because I don't know if Mel would have given such a great interview if they were together. Maybe it would have been a shorter interview. Maybe Mel wouldn't have gone as in depth. So I'm glad that they ended, but we had literally when Carl sat down saying, I can't wait anymore, let's just do it, start filming now. We had to very quickly, he wanted to go right then. We sort of had to very quickly shift the framing of everything. But there's not that many celebrities in the film. I mean, there's enough that like makes it, and actually there's a few celebrities that we interviewed and then we ended up cutting because we just found in the end, it worked out for us best to limit the number of talking heads in the film, which was really hard to do. And a lot of the a lot of the regular people who were interviewed for the film, we ended up losing them. It's just, who would have guessed that we would have ended up getting to interview people like Ruth Bader Ginsburg and Colin Powell, and that Mel Brooks could talk for like 5 hours coherently and interestingly about Horn Hardart. So also, I feel like I want to mention to you guys that if any of you want to have your names in the end credits, all it takes is a $100 or more donation, and you get your name in the credits of the film. And that helps to finish the licensing of all of the footage and making the score. We've got to get once all of these restrictions are lifted, we're getting an orchestra together to record the score. But if you want to have your name in the end credits, just go to automatmovie.com and there's a donate button, and it's a tax-deductible donation through our fiscal sponsor. And so just $100 or more, and that's automatmovie.com.
Well rehearsed, Lisa.
Wow.
Thank you. And thank you so much for joining us tonight, for sharing clips from the film with us. We wish you well in the completion of it. And I know I can speak on behalf of the San Diego International Jewish Film Festival and the selection committee. If you want to premiere the film with us, we are happy to have you. We have a lovely 500-seat theater for you. I'm not sure how many people we'll be able to put in that theater when the time comes, but it's here for you, and we'd love to have you.
Thank you. And I'd love to, stay in touch with all of you. We've got a really great Facebook community, facebook.com/the Automat, the movie. And, oh yeah, I totally have to thank your San Diego Jewish Film Festival screening committee, because I think that maybe some of them may have requested or suggested that we do this event. So thanks to the screening committee. I really appreciate the opportunity. And you can also email me if anyone has any follow-up questions. My email is lisa@automatmovie.com.
And we'll include all this email, all this info.
At a party. If I do a screening with you though, you got to throw a party.
We'll have a party.
Okay.
We'll have a party. Phil, can we have a party?
Everyone's got to get dressed up.
We're going to be ready to get dressed up by the time that rolls around.
Okay.
And we'll send a follow-up email that has some links and has all the information that Lisa provided for us tonight. Lisa, thank you again. Thank you everybody for joining us. A reminder, next Tuesday at 6 p.m., Amy Emberlin of the Zingerman's Bakehouse. And till then, stay safe, stay well, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Thank you for coming. Bye. Thanks to the screening committee. I really appreciate the opportunity. And you can also email me if anyone has any follow-up questions. My email is lisa@automatmovie.com.
And we can include, we'll include all this email, all this info.
At a party. If I do a screening with you though, you got to throw a party.
We'll have a party.
Okay.
We'll have a party. Phil, can we have a party?
Everyone's got to get dressed up.
We're going to be ready to get dressed up by the time that rolls around.
Okay.
And we'll send a follow-up email that has some links and has all the information that Lisa provided for us tonight. Lisa, thank you again. Thank you everybody for joining us. A reminder, next Tuesday at 6 p.m., Amy Emberlin of the Zingerman's Bakehouse. And till then, stay safe, stay well, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Thank you for coming. Bye.